Hello, and welcome to Adventures in Fusion 360. Here we are going to be introduced to this spectacular software that can be used to not only create parts, but also assemble them as well.
So to get started, let me introduce you to the basic layout of Fusion 360. At the very top, it highly mirrors Autodesk Inventor. So if you have a background in that, this should be somewhat familiar. First thing is that you'll notice at the top, you've got your File button, Save button, Data panel. This we're not going to get into just yet. Let's go down a little bit. So rather than have tabs with different ribbons, they have like a pseudo ribbon tab that they use. So the sketching tools are going to be your two-dimensional drawings that you create. Your Create is going to be three-dimensional features that you start adding. Modify is going to be adjustments to something that already exists, or making edits that rely on existing characteristics of your object. Assemble is where you assemble stuff. Construct, these are all planes where you can use a new surface to your sketches. Inspect is going to be measurements. Looks like a different analyses, and then insert picture. We're not really going to do that. Now, you have your navigation tools at the very bottom, and you have your view cube at the top right. Now, these things are very useful in case you ever get lost from your object. You can always click the front view. It'll rotate it to that XY plane. You can also click the home button, and it'll bring you back to that starting isometric perspective. And you can see in the model, not the model browser, you have like a viewport that shows you whatever parts you're working on. And the last part is just so critical, the model browser. If you go to the left, it says browser, you can hide it. I don't know why, but this is going to track all the different parts that you've made, all the different constraints you apply. Anything that you do in your object will be cataloged in this model browser. So any edits that you have to make, you can make it right from there. That being said, what I want you to get familiar with is sketching and extruding. So the first thing that you got to do is create a sketch when you want to make an object. We start with two-dimensional sketches, and then we provide depth in those sketches. So when you do that, you can see three different planes show up. So now we're going to make that sketch, and I press the Create Sketch tool here. Something that I want you to get familiar with are the mouse controls. They're absolutely critical. First one, zoom. When I scroll down, it zooms in. When I scroll up, it zooms out. And you'll notice that it zooms exactly to where your cursor is. So if I put it to the side and I zoom in, it's going to shift, it's going to zoom in to that right side. So keep that in mind. Number two, pan. Pan would be like if I were to grab the object and pick it up, pick it over to the right. It's like I'm physically picking up and shifting it with my arms. To pan, click that center mouse button. It's the wheel. I click it, and now, I'm just trying to do this. Here we go. Now I can shift around my view. Totally useful. So you click that middle mouse button. The last one is rotate, and to rotate, you have to click the middle mouse button just like you did with pan, but you're also holding the shift key. That'll allow you to three-dimensionally rotate your object. That being said, if ever you're using these tools and you get completely lost and you can't see anything, you could always just click home. All right, so now we're ready to sketch. I've got that simple object that I'm making, and to do this, I'm going to start with a rectangle, and then I'm going to cut the shapes out of it that I need. So I click my two-point rectangle tool, and this is going to make it super easy to make a rectangle. First, you click for the bottom corner. Then you move your mouse. We're not clicking and dragging. My hand's not clicking and dragging. Now, you'll notice that one of the boxes that appear is highlighted already. That blue highlight means you can type in it without having to click it. So if I look at my object, my width is going to be 1.25. Now I don't press anything except for tab. When I press the tab key, which is above the caps lock key, it's going to change the text box that I can type into. Now I'm going to input my height, 1 inch. I can see the shape that I want. I'm going to press enter. That finishes my sketch, and now I'm ready to continue. So I'm going to continue this particular drawing by using the line tool. Now, I'm going to start from this corner. I'm going to make sure it's at 0 degrees, and I'm going to type 0.25 inches. That matches up with the width of the rectangle in that drawing right there, 0.25. Beautiful. And that matches up with that. So now, using that reference point, I can click it, connect it to that corner. We're doing very well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a horizontal line leftwards, 0.5 inches, just to match. And I'm going to use my 2-point rectangle again, using my new reference point. I click there. I'm going to move it up. So now I'm going to say this is 0.25, press tab, 0.25. If I want to just see what that looks like, I just press tab again. We're good. Press enter. Ah, that's nice. So now I'm going to extrude. Extrusion is when you take a 2-dimensional sketch and you stretch it and fill it up with material. You'll see that now. Press extrude. Now I'm going to choose the sketch profile, or the shape that I want to extrude. I select here. Sorry for tapping you. And now I'm going to extrude a depth of 1 inch. Looks good. Now that I've got my basic shape, I need to adjust it a little bit so that it has this indent. And to do that, I'm going to start a new sketch on this surface right here, the front view, not any of the other ones, the front view. So now what I'm going to do is make a rectangle that starts at the end of that. I'm trying to surround the area that I'm going to extrude into. So I'm going to just make a shape. Doesn't really matter what the dimensions are, as long as it encompasses or holds everything that I want to extrude it. Now that I've done that, I'm going to click extrude again. And I'm going to choose here. And here you have 2 ways that you can actually extrude the object. Number 1, it's basic. I don't like it. You click the arrow and you can drag it out. You can drag it in, and it gives you a readout of what its dimension is going to be. If you don't like that method, like me, what you can do is type your number in. If I want it to go out 1 inch, I type the number 1. If I want it to go in ½ an inch, I type -0.5. And here it's given me a red removal preview of what will happen to my object. I like it. I press enter. And now I have my object completed. It looks beautiful. And I'm ready to present that to somebody else or mix it with other objects. So our next part. We have our part. It's tops. We're ready to export it so we can actually make it in the wood shop. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click File, New Drawing, from Design. Now, it's going to highlight. Don't worry. You're almost there. All you have to do is right-click. When you right-click the object, you're going to say OK. This is going to create a new window in Autodesk Fusion that will allow you to make a printable drawing. I want you to press Escape and get out of whatever menus popped up for you, because I want you to be able to add base parts into the drawing without having to go back into the other view. So here I am, blank page. It's got the title of my project and the example A for this drawing sheet. Before I put anything down, I want to make sure that my sheet is the correct size. So if at the very bottom you see Sheet Settings, click that, and you are now going to adjust the sheet size. Here they give you a little preview. A, 8.5 by 11. Great. Wait a minute, not great. That's different than what I expected. You're going to change your sheet size to 11 by 8.5. This is your basic form of printouts. You want profile only if you have a very tall object. Now for title block, you can remove it, let's see, by just clicking this box that comes up in the sheet settings. Now we got plenty of room to drop our parts. Now, to add the object, I'm going to click Base View, and here it already references our object. So, I can play around with my scale to get one that I like. I think 2:1 is going to look nice. It does. So now I just click to place the base view, and if I like my settings, I say OK. Great. Now I'm going to do my projected views, my top and my side. Click projected view. Now I have to select the object. When I move my mouse, I can see a preview, and I can also click to drop it. And then in the corner, I'm also going to drop the isometric view. I right click, say OK. Done. Now, all that's left is to put dimensions. So at the top, you can see very neatly described dimensions. I click it. And now I can hover my mouse over the line that I want. Here it's giving me the angle. I don't want the angle. I'll do that again. I click dimension. If I want this edge, I can just click the one, and then here I can drop it right where I want it. Here I click and I drag it. It's working great. Now what I can do, I could include this angle. The way I did that was click dimension. I click the vertical, and now I click the hypotenuse, and here it gives me either 135 degrees or 45, depending on whether or not you want to show 135 or 45. They're complements of each other, so it doesn't really matter. It's the same information shown two different ways. I'm going to drop that, and I can also click one vertical edge and then a different vertical edge, and it will tell me the distance between those two vertical edges. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to drop it beneath it because I don't want these extension lines to be over my object. Now that I've got my height completed, I'm working on my width. So dimensions, I'm going to do here to here. That was wrong. I undo. Dimensions. This corner to this corner. Bring it up so it's between adjacent views. And now all I need is depth. So I'm choosing this to show depth because it better shows contour. 0.5. Yeah, I'm over dimensioning right now, but that's okay. Here to here. 1. Beautiful. I now have a drawing that I can print to work on the wood shop.